Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday. This is Pushing Boundaries. This is the PB podcast, pushing the status quo of education everywhere we go, when it goes to either virtual learning or in classroom, wherever you might be. Hi, I'm Robert Knowles, aka Silas Knowles. I've been with you guys on this journey, talking with educators, seeing what they look, seeing what they feel. They talk about the new normal, what we are in this virtual learning thing, how to get through it, how to navigate it, the pitfalls, the ups and downs. So as you can see, I'm in my inner lair. I've come to my library. So it's always good to be surrounded by books. And this week is a very interesting show. I thought this would be a great opportunity because I think this gentleman has a lot to say and had some great conversations with him in the past. So I'd like to introduce my boss, Dr. Christopher Pawelczyk from Benton Township High School. How you doing, sir?
Good, Mr. Knowles. How are you doing?
It's Friday. I think we're in week 5, 6, 4.
I think week 5 with students is over.
But
who's counting?
Hey, what are you gonna do? Is every day is a new day, every journey is a new journey, but 3-day weekend.
That's right. That's right.
That's always a good thing. So, sir, to bring you in, this is Dr. Pawelczyk's very first intro into the podcast world. So I thought it'd be a good idea to bring a fresh face, and I think he has a great outlook and ideas and everything else when it comes to virtual learning. So as a whole, sir, how do you think education is doing on virtual learning? I mean, are we succeeding? Are we failing? I mean, obviously, as an educational leader, it's your opinion, and but what do you think? I mean, do you think we're doing well? Do you think we can pick it up?
Wow, that's a good question. Obviously my perspective is our experience right now, and my personal experience, both as a principal of a school building and even just kind of watching my own two middle school and elementary school aged children kind of navigate this. I think we're certainly rising to the occasion. I'm kind of blown away, to be honest with you, Robert, how quick really educators, leaders, you, me, are just transforming and have had to adapt to make this work in our school buildings and for our kids. And if you would have asked me, last year, hey, let me put this scenario out in front of you, do you think you could do it? I would have said not in a million years. I don't think anybody would.
No, I wouldn't be on that list either. If you would have came to us in March and said, "Hey, this is what we're going to do," no, that would be first thing.
No, so is it our theme and everybody I've talked to is like, look, we're never going to make anything. This is not going to be perfect, right? We know that we can't create a perfect model in this setting, but I am absolutely blown away. I'm energized by the opportunities that are in front of us right now. And I'm super proud of what we've done as a school district. And my other experiences just with my own children in a different school district, kids are learning. Kids are learning in spite of everything. Kids are learning, and that's what our main priority is. So I think we're getting it done.
Definitely. Now, I talked to other educational leaders on here, from the East Coast to the West Coast, North and South. And I always ask a question, and I always think it's an interesting one. In this pandemic, how does it feel to be a principal of a school with almost 0 students attending it every day and being in virtual learning? Like, how does that transition for you from, we have 2,200, 2,300 students, now there's maybe 10 because they come in for our internet cafes and everything else? I mean, how's that transition for you as a leader?
I never thought about it until you asked it, but I think I'm used to it right now, to be perfectly frank with you. I mean, I typically am going in every day. I'm just finding it to be a place for me to be more productive. Quite frankly, things are, I'm managing things well in my own home. Very thankful for that. I know that's not necessarily the case for everyone, but to be on site and to be working either with leadership team and a variety of other people who are there, And even seeing the small number of kids that walk through and being able to have a conversation with a student pretty much daily to kind of check in and see how they're doing. It's quite refreshing, but I'm used to it. I don't want to get too used to it, because I'm really looking forward to the time where we can get students back into our building for sure.
Of course.
But it's strange. For some school leaders like myself, I'm a 12-month employee. There's a stretch of time probably between mid-July and when school starts for us, which is late August, where we don't see students in the building. So I'm somewhat familiar with it. But students really haven't been back in our building since March 13th. It's been a long time.
How's that?
So I've had some time to adjust, to be honest with you.
How's that transition for you, though, with having, going from the teacher part of the question to the student part? We haven't had students since March 13th of this year. How's that on you as being an educational leader?
It's just strange. I don't, we're just used to the busyness of a school building, and even in the summer, and even in those few weeks where things are very quiet in our building, it's uncomfortable. It's not, at least for me, I'll complain in November and December because we're so busy and the kids are running around the building and this is going on and that's going on. But when they're not there, it's not fun. It's not normal. And I never thought about it till you just brought this up. I need to check myself a little bit, because I've got to make sure that this doesn't become normal. We want our students back in the building.
Of course.
But if we, one might argue, if we wait too long, we're going to forget what it's like to have students. It's scary thoughts, but I can't wait for things to get back somewhat. I can't wait for students to get back in the building. Undoubtedly, it is in the best interest of everyone to maximize our abilities to teach and to fully maximize the student potential. They just simply have to be in the building. So sooner than later, hopefully, we just got to make sure that it's safe to do so.
Definitely. It's getting that weird norm. You're like looking outside the hallway. You're like, there's usually people here.
For sure. Craziness.
It's ridiculous. But and like you said, the quicker they come back into the building, the better for all of us, I think. So one time, I think, and what really sparked my desire to have you on this call is we had a conversation. I know you have hundreds of conversations with teachers, but you and I had a particular one about how you saw virtual learning going in the future. And you had made reference to seeing your kids like on Minecraft and Fortnite, not seeing anybody there and still learning and still progressing. What's your thoughts on how virtual learning will progress going forward, even when kids come back?
Yeah. I know that there are students successful in this environment. And students that could also be successful in what would be a normal show up to school every day environment as well. But I'm hearing a lot of anecdotes from teachers about, students that, or a volume of students in each of their classes that may not feel comfortable engaging with peers, or may not feel comfortable answering questions, or may not feel comfortable just generally participating. And that they're seeing more students willing to offer answers or provide, just talk. And whether it's verbal or whether it's typing some answers in a chat box, I think there's something there that we've got to look a little bit deeper at and harness a little bit, because that is and could be just as valuable an opportunity to gain insight into student learning as if they were sitting in person and we were talking to them, right? So There's something going on right now for me. And I actually just had a conversation today with somebody, and us old timers, so to speak, who
whoa. Whoa. You and I are about
I-
the same. You and I are about the same age.
I wasn't talking to you.
Okay.
I wasn't talking about you. But I mean, I didn't. I mean, I went through my entire life of high school without the internet, and there are a lot of school leaders and a lot of teachers, that we didn't have that. We didn't have mobile phones until we were late into our 20s and 30s, depending, and
Remember the beepers?
and our kids nowadays.
Remember the beepers?
Oh yeah, beepers, pagers. Yeah, thought we were really cool with one of those on our belts, right? But and it's probably historic in public education, right? You got older people who are trying to who either think that younger people growing up and living in a different world than we did are going to learn the same way that we learned. And what our normal was should be the normal we create for them. And the older and older I get, and the more distant I get from that experience, from the experiences that young people have now, is dangerous. One might argue for school leaders and for policymakers. We have to keep the perspective of our kids in mind, because what we want to criticize, which is these young people with their heads buried in their phones. They're multitasking. They're listening to music. They've got 4 devices going. They're trying to do all this, right? And we think that that's not productive and healthy. For them, it is productive. And for them, it can be a quality learning experience. And we just have to come to grips with that. And I think in the remote world that we're working in, we have had to go down that pathway. And at least what I'm seeing with either both my personal children and then the students in our high school, they're actually successful, and they are actually getting something out of this experience. And one may argue they just might be more engaged and enjoying this experience as well. Although I know that there are also a lot of students who want to get back into the building and enjoy the social components of what school has to offer. But if we do this right and we start really reflecting on the silver linings of what we've had to endure over these last several months, we likely should try and find a way to blend all of that together in some way so that we can make sure that we seize on this opportunity to kind of find a way to make this normal, just like bringing students into a building and having them go through an 8-period day in front of a teacher, in front of a classroom. We can do something special here. And I don't have an answer yet, but I think if we keep our eyes open and start talking about it more, we're going to come up with something that's really going to be something lasting in our profession here, and that's going to make a big difference for kids.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's just it's so changing every day, and it's a different beast every day. I don't know coming into it never what to expect. It's always one thing around here.
Well, we're putting out fires every day, every week. We put something in place, and then there's another thing that has to go with it. There are so many unintended consequences of every policy change, of every we want to add this to our technology. We want to take this away from our technology, and then there's so many different dominoes that keep falling. But I tell you what, I'm energized by it. I don't think I've ever been as busy, but I love this busy right now because it's so fresh for me. And I'm sure for a lot of people, it's the same way. We just gotta maintain a positive attitude. And just, for me, I'm just staying focused on what I believe is going to be some really good changes that are going to come from this down the road.
Definitely. So, you got a little taste in a meeting we had the other day, if you don't mind me sharing. You get a little taste of what I'll share to everyone. We had a group committee meeting it was like 24 of us on the screen, and Dr. Pawelczyk was getting to learn Zoom and everything. And we gave them a taste of what our life was like, and we all blanked out our screens and put them all black. That's what our normal day is. What would you say to a teacher who came to you and asked and was struggling, like, and had those black screens and feels like they're not engaging with the student and feels like the student's not getting it? I mean, what would you say to that teacher that is really struggling with the virtual learning part?
I have to bow to the experts. I am, and that would be other classroom teachers who are doing this the right way. And, subsequently after those meetings, I finally been able to get in and watch some classrooms. And so I've seen 3 over the last 2 days. And the 3 that I saw, Robert, I mean, I couldn't be more proud and of I'll call it the performance that our teachers put on. I think one of the things, and again, every teacher is a little bit different, but you really need to put a show on, so to speak. I mean, your tone, your intonation, that you're either, whatever you're going to do in spite of the screen, right? I mean, moving kids back and forth, changing the volume of your voice. I mean, students need to see that stimulation, at least from the classroom teachers. I think what I saw, which I would really, which I think just works, which is, making sure you're moving students in and out, and, Zoom has these breakout rooms. I think really trying to make those things happen. I think I saw 2 teachers who are co-teachers in our model, and they did a great job of bouncing back and forth from each other. One was at home, one was in their classroom, one was doing work on the board, and they just did an absolutely remarkable job of keeping the engagement and some, and the dialogue, not just from them, but with students, right?
Right.
And so the beauty too of this is that what used to be really difficult sometimes too for teachers to go see other teachers, now I think there's a little bit of a more ease with going in and seeing other people in action, because teachers can let each other into their virtual classrooms, and that. And I just, I've said this, and I've come to a realization long ago, Robert, right? Even though, I'm an evaluator and it's my responsibility to be the instructional leader. I stand on the shoulders of my teachers, and that's why it's also so important for me to go in and watch what's happening, because I'm not doing it anymore. So when a teacher asks me those questions, I talk about when I go see a classroom, the 3 classrooms I was just in a virtual setting, or my just experiences with that, because I see it happen. I see it work from firsthand. And I know it can happen. I know it can be challenging. I know not every day is going to be the same. I know the first period of the day is very different than the last period of the day.
Yes, it is.
I'm watching this happen. I'm watching teachers teach to these black screens, Robert. I'm watching it. But then all of a sudden I hear a voice pop up. The chat box is going, I saw one teacher say, okay, very mindful of what is, this, some sort of comfort level anxiety with, our students opening up everybody into their homes and bedrooms, right? We have to be mindful of that, right? But I saw one teacher say, okay, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Everybody, I just want to see your faces and go. And then each student just kind of hit video off, right? And you could just see the videos pop on and off, and you could see the students' faces very quickly, right? Simple strategy, at least the teacher knows that the students are there. And then you strategically use some question prompts. I would imagine, teachers are strategically have their list of students, and they're making sure that they're going to ask each, at least try and engage each student at least once during that 45-minute class that's going on. But that's what I would say. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. That's what I know. And it's just about trying new things and, and just, some of that's outside the comfort level of teachers, right? We are certainly, I consider myself a teacher as well. Hard to teach old dogs new tricks, right? But it's possible. I would just encourage teachers to just go watch their colleagues in action. I mean, that's the inspiration, I think, behind a lot of the work either we do as leaders or what we did as teachers. And I know you well enough. I mean, there's powerful people and that have done some really, really cool things, and you've just really latched onto those. There isn't a better time than now for teachers to start seeking that kind of assistance, even if it's just to watch them in action, right?
Or give professional development on Fridays or do videos.
Exactly.
My videos have been going nonstop, man. My videos are going nonstop. And that's the thing too. It's just like one day, I don't think a lot of teachers, not even in our school, but in general, I mean, there are really those days you're like, ugh, and you just talking to the dark screen, you're like, ugh. And then there are other days that they are engaged, they are learning something, and you see stuff coming back. So there are peaks and valleys is the great way to describe it. It's just there's high times and low times, and you just gotta try and just level it out as best you can.
Absolutely.
So yeah, when it comes to this time, I think it's really a good time for people to really step out and really to, like you said, like you were talking about, being different, trying to break the status quo, if you will. How would you look at, or how do you see education pushing boundaries and really going above and beyond the classroom to try and engage students? Do you see any way that we can, as educators, really go above and beyond the four walls of our classroom, the four walls of our virtual classroom, to really go forward and engage those kids?
Give me an example. Like what are you thinking about with that question?
Well, during COVID, like during the first times of COVID, I actually would go and I would, besides trying to call students, trying to email students or text students, I would literally drive to their house and stand in the street while they stood at their doorway and talk to them from that social distance with masks on, trying to do something different to engage the kids. You've seen I've used numerous amounts of tech that no one else does.
Right.
Things like that. So really just taking the time to really do the unconventional, I guess would be the word.
Yeah. That certainly helps put into context for that question for me. I think, yes, I think, I mean, my personal on that is, I'm really trying to make a conscious effort myself of, even something like this. I have my first podcast, and I wouldn't classify myself as technologically illiterate, so to speak. But social media just isn't my thing. Never has been, and I think to what I had said earlier, right? Just it may not be my thing, but if I am going to be an effective school leader, then I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to the students. And if the students are into the social media, and that's an avenue that they can, that would be a place for me to maybe engage with students or provide them with support, then it's incumbent on me to do that. And I can't say that I'm knocking it out of the ballpark right now, but I am definitely moving myself out of my comfort zone and trying to put myself into those, more videos, some sort of, social media piece. And I've got some ideas that I it's just garnering up the courage to put yourself out there a little bit and do it. Right. And that's, and it's not for everybody, but that's one piece. And I think, and we did some of that. I think, when we did our yard signs, which were a really popular thing, once COVID hit last year, that was such a simple gesture that went so far, I think, and then one of the things that, it's probably normal in a lot of schools. I'm not going to say it isn't, but What we're working on right now is really trying to identify the students that are not successful right now in our model. And we are going to really try and personalize our efforts to intervene with those students and those families and really do everything we can to push or pull them out of wherever they are, help them with whatever challenges they have, and try and do the best we can to encourage them and support them to start engaging a little bit more regularly. We can pull our attendance numbers. We know there's some students that just aren't logging in every day. We know that even and obviously they're not going to be doing their work. So administratively, that's a piece I think we need to help teachers with. But even some simple phone calls, right? And just check-ins and things. And I know that our staff is doing that. I know that we're doing things, those simple things that always work in levels that we've never done before because they mean so much. But yes, absolutely. Like I said, I think, those amongst probably things that I'm not even familiar with, right? But, the more dialogue that we have with different schools doing all these different things to make sure that students are maintaining their connectedness to the school building and the culture. And then also making sure that we're, providing all the social emotional supports that they need as well. Make sure you keep running activities, even if they're virtual. Athletics is such a huge deal. Band, choir. I mean, these are things that kids just love to be a part of. And it's incumbent on us to keep those things going strong.
Definitely. It's a weird time. It's just a weird time. It's like you said, it's tiring in a very different way. And I've been doing this only 8 years and I've never been so exhausted with no students in the classroom, and they're all virtual. And I'm twice as exhausted, 10 times more exhausted than I've ever been with a classroom full of students. So
I've heard that from so many of your colleagues, Robert. You all are just working unbelievably. It's just unbelievable. I'm blown away by that, how well we are integrating our current technology and using that to teach the class. Yeah. I mean, like I said, those 3 observations that I did, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say it brought tears to my eyes, but wow. I mean, it was impressive. It was impressive. Yeah. And I can't wait
to even go on top of that. I mean, with the virtual learning and everything else, you, me, and a few others have a whole virtual conference for 3 days next week.
Right.
So it's like, the virtual keeps going. Says we have a whole virtual 3-day thing we're doing. Did you notice, by the way, it's Pacific time they have it, so we don't start till 10, by the way? Just want to point that out.
I thank you for bringing that up. I would have been sitting there for an hour wondering what was going on.
Actually, 2, because they start at 8, Central Time is 10, so we don't have to be on till 10.
It's gonna be a long afternoon. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. So, Dr. Chris Pawelczyk, Mr. CP himself, I do appreciate your time. I want to be mindful of your time. So we do thank you for coming on Pushing Boundaries, Pushbound Consulting, and for everybody else, we'll see you in a week or 2. Got some other guests lined up. What are you guys doing to push the boundaries of your classroom, regardless if it's virtual or in class? And just remember, we are here for the kids no matter what. So be safe, wear a mask, and do the social distance thing, and we'll see you guys soon. So take it easy, everybody.
Thank you.